Hi, I'm Brendan, and welcome to Personality Epistemology. So in this video, and I'm doing this as part 3 of a series, and I'm just kind of winging it as I do this, but I have some sense of what I'm doing. So I want to show, I printed out all of these references and rearranged them. I mean, I haven't much in a while, but I spent months like rearranging these and taking photos, and likewise I have these sketchbooks, and I spent months last year sort of free writing and applying some of the suggestions from Michael Sandler's automatic writing experience, and a lot of it kind of overlaps with stuff I've figured out already through different things, but like earlier on I've had different bursts of, I have a image reference to show, like it started with, part of the process that I've done with these layouts is it started with just arranging books that I had in layouts on the floor and taking photos and thinking like what's missing, or what does this what openings does this provide, or overview of what next, including decision making books and so on. So one idea I have is to actually like just go through these like one at a time and explain, this is why I find this significant, because when they're put in these layouts, they're, I think, a little bit overwhelming, and my sense is that if somebody knows all the references well and has thought about them, then seeing them in the combination may make more sense. But it's like a foreign language or going into a forest or something. So I want to, let's see what next. It's like decision tree. So part of the context here is I'm working as a 24/7 caregiver, and it's like, and then I have severe ADHD, and I'm an INTJ with severe intuition, and so, like I really struggle with household tasks and cleaning, but I'm a caregiver, so I have other responsibilities that are, it's not just cleaning the house, but the thing is, like, it's been impossible. There's like a caregiver shortage, and it's been impossible to find any help. And this is really an indictment of the whole Medicaid caregiver model that has no HR. The states differ on how they do things, but what I gather is like there's no real like solid representation, and then because, this is a whole topic, the caregiver thing, because there's been some efforts to change things, but then nothing that seems like I could get involved with it or contribute my insights, or get help or anything, and I think I'll make a video focused on that, but the thing is, like, because there's no replacement caregiver and there's no viable alternatives to caregivers, this is the future, it should be, or whatever, instead of institutions, is people in the community and people helping each other, and what should be, even if it's a formal job, but this gets into my idea of a interdisciplinary profession, including, the idea it would be that for each person it could have different sort of focus, and because people have different strengths and weaknesses, and and it would include caregiving, because this is a role that what it ends up being for many people is there's no one to help, or half the work is trying to figure out how to get help, advocate to actually get services from professionals, figure out how to find backup, or these types of things. So when I say interdisciplinary helping profession, it's this whole range of possible roles and mixes of roles, which is different than the way things are usually considered. So I updated my 6E playlist that I made a recent video about. I added some things. Some of the references on the screen now is like I have this quote from, I got it from Ken Robinson quoting Peter Brook, director. All you need for theater is basically just people, to summarize it even further. And I have this reference, Born in the Theater, from TV Tropes, which is like basically described as an outdated joke or something. But really, we've all been born into the theater of Earth in the current era. The past 80-year period of several generations has certain characteristics, and people who have experienced life in the 1920s, for example, probably have some sensibility of something that's different, and likewise other cultures and so on. But much of the modern world has been colonized, basically, or influenced somehow or another by, it's like school and all these things that will be confusing and nonsensical when people look, why were people doing school like this, education like this, and it hasn't been around for that long. But this past 80, 100-year period is, and then there's layers that go back further, but it's I don't know, that's a whole topic. But basically, we're in the context of history at a moment of change, and the future is not predetermined. I mean, people could have different views on what is going to happen, but clearly, basically, people who, for the most part, are not talking to each other in different aspects of society have to work together to figure out what the fuck next. I mean, some people have to work out in some way how to figure out what next, because even if some group of people can take political power, there's still the matter of how do you run the world. And it's even if villains succeed at eliminating a bunch of people, there's still the same problem of how do you actually functionally run a human society, or community for that matter, or family for that matter. So, and so this gets to how, one lens to use of thinking about humanity is as one big family, and it's like the parents, so to speak, the elders are from this sort of period of history that is dissolving, and so we need to figure out what next. So, and I encourage people to help me figure this out, and I encourage figuring out how to talk to people who want to figure it out. And obviously that does include certain varieties of struggle for people having different visions, or wanting control or power or safety, both, and within that space, there's different ways it could be done. So, and then I have this quote, this photo of me next to the video here is on the, I guess, left, right. The larger one is from 2011, and I just basically I ended up kind of at that moment abandoned by everyone I was previously had sort of, and I mean by abandoned I just mean it just turned out where I happened to be. Yeah, I had nowhere to go, and then my mom was also ill and getting worsening dementia in another state. But then it's like this whole, and I was thinking to go there, and in the end her sister went there to help, but it's like, and then meanwhile back then I was trying to figure out the same things I'm trying to figure out now. It was a lot less, I mean, now I have people I know who are interested in the same things, but or more people or something, but anyway, I remembered at that time in 2011 this something somebody said, which I could get into the story behind that, but about doubting God and the this third step of the 12-step thing, which, I mean, that's not really my thing, but I just remember that he said this thing, turn our lives over to God as we understand, but it's like, what does that mean when in a world of people? I mean, beyond, there's a layer of it, okay, fine, I mean, like living liminally or whatever, and openness to what could happen, and acceptance of what one can not control, but then I don't know, there's more. It's like people are to varying degrees and in different ways in control or influencing, so then it gets into like who's doing that, or what do people even want, and what's possible. So but back then I was still also thinking it's like life as a story. I mean, that doesn't mean it's pre-scripted like a Hollywood film or anything, but it's like there over time there are ways to seek out more of a rich, full life and meaning and purpose. And so when people are doing that, more becomes possible, especially at these changing times in history. So I'm gonna pull two layouts together, as most students board at school. But so just to talk about this for a minute, so it's like my dad applied, or I don't know how applied, but cultural anthropology, and I put this applied anthropology thing. Well, I mean, life is applied anthropology, I guess, if you're applying knowledge to practice. And then my mom studied different things, but one was public history. So, and then it's kind of like live history. But then, so my dad wrote this handout for a class a long time ago called Complications and Implications of Modern Culture. And so that's the thing, is there are these haywire, I mean, it's worse than what my dad even got at in his handout. But basically it's this story thing, but it's the complications and implications are pretty severe, and they're coming to a head. So this gets into, like, at the top of this, one of these things, it says from this article about it's like synonym city. I'm trying to find a word to use, but I forget what it's like about moral injury. But it said, appreciating this dilemma, aka double bind pile up in my words, pushes us in the direction of moral reflective judgment that begins from particular experiences of moral injury and moves toward. And then I paraphrased another article about epistemology and options, and but basically finding paths through means doing some epistemic work or knowledge work or figuring out research, learning, reflection, and that gets into this liminal space and self-transformation video, which is also in this current playlist I've been updating, Embodied, Embedded, etc. So, and then I have Jeff Gomez, collective journey narratives are omnidirectional. We can participate and potentially change the story. And this applies to like what happens next in history. And more and more people are seeing this, but then a lot of people are stuck or not sure what to do. so it gets into the need for figuring out life navigation when it's not just get your job, pick a job off a list, and 40 years later you retire or something and don't have to worry about anything. I mean, this is not the reality of the world we're living in for many people. And so there's this concept of epistemic trust, which seems to impact how we interpret the meaning of communication even before we decide to accept a piece of information. So it's like if someone is watching this video, like seeking to learn and understand beyond what they know or something, it's different than just mindlessly surfing it. And same with other videos. And then, so I have my photo of me at 14. My dad said, "School is your job." When I said, "I'm not learning anything," it's like I just have to do it just because it's my job. Why? Well, culture. I mean, it's like this whole thing of, okay, when in Rome, right? So it's like if you're in a foreign country, you're supposed to act like the people there. And since modern society is a foreign reality, basically, in a way, it's like just school is your job. So anyway, so I labeled this thing the catastrophic reality of school, college, and helping professions in 2023. And I don't think that's an understatement. So, and then it's like this, so many people are in cliffhanger scenes, but it's not perceived by other people to be that. It's like, oh, it's not a movie, so people dying by the hour, who cares? I mean, that's a widespread sensibility, or not my job to do anything about it, which is ridiculous. And so it gets into this affective energy, authentic power, transforming communities toward a phenomenology of collaboration article, and lives of despair at risk for deaths of despair, tracking an under-recognized vulnerable population. And then this Most Students Board article from 2007, it's same as now. We got a number of answers that said these surveys are pointless because even if there's a problem, you guys are going to do nothing about it. Students are feeling like they're not taken seriously enough. Their concerns aren't focused on, and no action comes out of what they do and say, and that's true of many people. So it's like I have so many images stacked up here. Okay, so back to this. So that gets into this solving the impossible problems thing, how to ask for help in the context of danger, tyranny, terror, and wrong. And I mean, that's kind of a reference to, in part, this wall of awful ADHD metaphor, like when basically being blocked from doing tasks or by some kind of what I call infoenergic barriers, feelings or like demotivation or whatever, and also Dante's dark wood of error, when it adds up to like a overwhelm of that. Okay, well, I think I will pause here, and this is kind of just a run through, and I will try to focus more on specific topics in next videos. Feel free to like and subscribe, add comments, all of that, ask questions, share insights and all of that. More soon.